Hi guys, so now we're going to talk about cellular respiration. So we'll start right here, share my screen, put it in present. Okay, so as you see, we have a lovely little lizard having a snack, right? And that is a key aspect tied to our idea of cellular respiration. So quick review, mitochondria. Remember, mitochondria is all about making energy. It's the powerhouse of the cell because this is where we create a large amount of energy. That's really tied to this double membrane, in particular, this one that has all the little cristae, all the little folds in it. And the ATP synthase, they're going to be found in there. So you may want to, at some point, take a moment or two to go back and check your notes. Now might not be the best time, but that's totally up to you. So cellular respiration is that point where cells are going to actually harvest chemical energy that is stored in organic molecules and use it to generate ATP. So you're eating sugar, you're eating carbohydrates. I have this cinnamon roll that the school has provided me with that I've been kind of munching on off and on today. A little bit at a time, it's not so bad, but so we're going to break those organic molecules down that we're ingesting, and we're going to use them to generate ATP. So we're going to take the organic molecule plus oxygen, and we're going to end up with carbon dioxide, water, and energy. You know, if I were to just say glucose here, that sounds an awful lot like the opposite of photosynthesis, and that's what it is. Starch is the major source of fuel for animals, and remember, starch was simply made up of basically strings and strings of glucose monomers joined together. So starch will break down into glucose. So we're going to focus on all of our breakdowns and all of our reactions in relation to glucose, but understand that we can use other organic macromolecules to do this process. Ultimately, what we do is we basically turn them into glucose or turn them into one of the particles that's made along the process. So we'll start with the catabolic breakdown of glucose. So we've got glucose and we want to break it down. This ties once again to our redox reactions, our oxidation and reduction. So don't forget, Leo, the lion goes grrr. Lose electrons oxidation, gain electrons reduction. So the sugar will be oxidized into carbon dioxide, and the oxygen is reduced to form water. And then we get our ATP and our heat energy, because remember back when we talked about the laws of thermodynamics and free energy, that we could use some of the energy in a new format, but the rest is given off as heat, remember? Okay, so oxidation, whoops, sorry. The oxidation of the glucose transfers electrons to a lower energy state, releasing energy that can then be used by ATP synthesis to make our ATPs, right? So the path of the electrons in energy harvest. During the cellular respiration, most electrons will follow this downhill exergonic, giving off energy pathway. So we go from glucose to NADH to the electron transport chain to oxygen. We're saying that that's the path that the electrons are going to follow. But how do we harvest this energy so it is usable? So glucose is actually broken down in steps to harvest the energy. The electrons are going to be taken from the glucose at different places in these steps. Each electron that is taken will ultimately travel with a proton, typically a hydrogen ion. That's where the water comes in play. And so we have dehydrogenase takes 2 electrons and 2 protons from glucose. Therefore, it is an oxidizing agent for glucose. It's going to transfer those 2 electrons and 1 proton to the coenzyme NAD, reducing it to be NADH. This is an energy molecule. This would be like yen. It's still money, but we can't use it here. So NADH is still an energy molecule, but it won't work in the body as one of our key energy sources. We have to have ATP in the body to use as energy source. Other proton is released into the surrounding solution as just a hydrogen ion. So we remember it was H2O. So we got 2 electrons. We took one of the protons, stuck it, reduced it to the NADH. The other one is just a hydrogen ion that's been released and will play a role in terms of our hydrogen gradient. NADH is going to carry the electron to the electron transport chain where we can exchange it. The electron transport chain, typically we call it ETC just because we get tired of having to say electron transport chain and write it over and over and over, is going to be a sequence of membrane proteins that shuttle electrons down a series of redox reactions. Remember, electron transport chains, these are the hot potato game where we're going to toss from one protein to the next to the next. So this will release the energy that we had stored in our NADH, and we can then use it to make ATP. The ETC transfers the electrons to oxygen, the final electron acceptor, and we make H2O. Because remember, those electrons also have some hydrogens hanging around with them. This releases energy. And that's it for our introductory notes. I'm going to exit. And then we're going to stop sharing. Okay, so that hopefully gives you the intro to the cellular respiration. Now we're going to go into the specifics.